What's up guys, Strike Entertainment back again with another video. I decided to sit down for this video and kind of talk to you guys about what some of the best beginning airsoft guns are if you're just getting into the sport. I get a lot of questions about this when I'm on the field on, what should I go for? A lot of my viewers are new to the sport or don't have much experience, and I feel as if I want to kind of share the experiences that I had, and I've gone over some of my mistakes that I've made in the past when I got into the sport, and I really want to share those so I can help prevent people from making the same mistakes that I did. Everybody makes mistakes when it comes to, when they get into the sport of not knowing what to do, what to get, what to buy, how much to spend and all that, and educating yourself on what to do. Having extra knowledge in the sport can never really hurt. You can help build up your experience and just knowing what's good, what's not, what I should go for, what I should avoid. I guess this is the kind of information that I'm passing on. I do want to get out of the way that I am not claiming that I know everything in the sport. This is just from my own personal experience. People may have their own opinions as to what they prefer to go for. This is just my own personal opinion. I don't have a very wide variety of experience in a massive arsenal of varying weapons in terms of design, like M4s, AKs, shotguns, pistols. Like, I've used a variety of some, but not enough, I would say, that would make me an expert in everything. So take this with a little bit of grain of salt that this is my opinion at the end of the day. So my personal opinion to start with when it comes to getting into the sport is, if you've never played, don't buy any sort of gun. Don't buy an airsoft gun until you've actually gone out and gone to a field and played for yourself. Almost every field I've ever gone to, and I'm trying to think, pretty much every field I've played at has always had a rental system where a player who has no gear shows up, pays the entrance fee for however long they want to play. They get a gun, a magazine, a high cap mag with, some BBs, and they're good to go. The mistake that I made was that I never went out and played airsoft with the rental gear, and I didn't get to really realize if I was into the sport before buying all my gear. I didn't do that, and I went out and spent a couple $100s on gear and guns that ended up hurting me in the long run because I didn't know what was good and what to avoid. And I really wasn't all that into the sport, and that obviously changed as I got older and got my experience, but that came with time, and I didn't really have anyone that I was kind of listening or paying attention to, or anything that I was learning. So go out, go to a field and use the gear, the gun that they use, and just see if you enjoy the sport. You're going to hear this a million times, everybody, that when you come to this advice is just go out and see if you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it and you feel like, oh, this is kind of fun, do that maybe 2 or 3 times just to really make sure, because airsoft is a really expensive hobby. I'll show you some of the pictures of some of the guns that I would recommend. Most of these get to be really, really expensive, and you want to make sure you're putting your money into something that's worthwhile and you're not wasting your money in the long run. That would be my starting advice. After you played, wherever you decide to play, and you realize, okay, this is something I want to get into, then you go and invest in a gun. I would say no more than $200, and it really depends on how serious you are. In some cases, I've recommended, you go more than that because you're willing to spend the money and this is something you're definitely going to get into. I'd say my first real gun that I ever got that was when I was playing really seriously was my VFC Avalon. That costed me about $340, but I got it off of eBay secondhand, and it had some attachments that came with it, so I was very, very lucky that just so happened that I got it secondhand. But that gun still works. I've never really had an issue with it other than some small upgrades that I've had to do over the time. I've had it for 3 years now, but because I went really heavy on the money, it pays off in the long run because it's full metal construction and it's designed, it's durable. So if you go with a cheaper gun, it's got a higher likelihood of possibly breaking and not lasting you, but at least you haven't spent a lot of money. And if it completely breaks on you, it's less than going a really, really expensive one and then you not using it and just wasting the money. So it sounds really conflicting the way that I'm saying it. It's just you need to be able to weigh yourself as to how much you're really going to play. If you're going to play seriously, as you're going to play 3, 4, maybe 5 times a month, or maybe once every other month, that's going to depend on how much money you should really sink into it. So that's going to be up to you. So To start with, and this is the one that you hear all the time, is the best beginning gun, in my opinion, that I've heard, is the G&G combat machine. And I'm just saying, and I'm not just saying this because that's what everyone else has said. You know, I have used some. These are the typical guns that rentals end up being given by the field because of their consistency. They're very inexpensive, but they're effective and they work and they have massive upgradability. This is an M4, and so a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you're an M4 person. It's like, yeah, there's a reason why the M4 is the most popular gun on the market, is because of its use. And remember, Airsoft also has a very big draw to the connection in the real world. The M4 is one of the most popular guns used in the real world situation, next to the AK, which I will go into in a little bit. But also, when it comes to Airsoft guns, having a very popular gun means you're going to have high availability to parts in case it breaks or if you want to upgrade something, and also magazines. If you have, M4s, magazines are probably the easiest magazines to come across. And that'll go into a really big point as well, is that if you're using a gun and you don't have much space for mags, you don't have extra mags, I guarantee you'll be able to find someone on the field that you're playing with that'll have an extra magazine that you can borrow if you run out of ammo, And then, see, that's a big thing. It's not just about the gun, it's what it provides to you later down the road. It's effective, but you can also now upgrade it. And if you want to upgrade it further, if something breaks, you can find parts pretty easily and pretty inexpensive for the most part. And you can also find extra mags relatively easily from either other people or online, wherever. So yeah, the combat machine comes in at about $150. Depends on which version you go for. There's a variety of them. I can put a couple up on screen. I've seen some that come with a variety of features, whether that be a different type of rail, the typical Picatinny rail, quad rail, whatever you want to call it, was what it used to be. Now they're making versions with Keymod and M-Lock, which can be more effective now because a lot of the attachments seem to be moving to the M-Lock Keymod type realm. So it's really going to depend on personal preference, but that is probably the best entry line gun to go into. I'm using Evike as just kind of like my baseline when it comes to pricing, because it's the most popular store in terms of the airsoft market. It'd be kind of like the Dick's Sporting Goods of the airsoft world, is I guess the best way to describe it. When it comes to also as well, when it comes to $200 guns, $200 to $300 guns as well, you can find some really nice AKs. The most common brand or most popular when it comes to AKs is CYMA. CYMA AKs, the Stamp Steel series, typically have real wood, full metal construction for AKs, which they fall between that $200 to $300 price point. Like I said, I haven't really used many AKs in terms of to give you the full pros and cons of what I would and wouldn't recommend. It just completely depends on what you're interested in, what you're going for. If you're going for a specific type of loadout, like a Russian loadout, then obviously you want to go the AK route rather than an M4. But those are a good beginner gun if you find in a good price point, and those have a really good, they're very durable, so they're going to last you a long time. And also, again, they're right behind M4s when it comes to parts and magazine availability. And also, if you don't end up liking them and you're not interested in it, you'll almost be guaranteed to have someone willing to buy it off of you, whether it be online or in person. So that's another good route to go for if you want to go a little bit more and stray away from the M4 platform. You can go the route of AKs. So that's just something to keep in mind. Pretty much any gun made by G&G would be a great starting gun in terms of like an M4. ARP9, they have their own Mark 18. They have a Keymod GC16 Predator, which that one's probably a little bit more than it might be just over $300. I'd have to look at that. G&G makes great beginner guns that are not only just for beginners, but they also can be long lasting, as in they're durable, and they can be used not just as a starting gun. Like, they can be competitive with your other brands. Like, it's not just because the price is maybe lower than some of the other ones doesn't mean that it can't perform or even outperform some of the other guns that are on the market that may be more expensive. It just completely depends on what it is. Another good set would be Ares. The only thing I've noticed is sometimes with Ares, their gearboxes have been known to crack when put under high pressure. They are known reputation-wise to have very snappy triggers right out of the box, like the Ares Amoeba. They've got a great M4 platform for that as well. It's just gonna completely come down to personal preference. So those are things to look into, between the $200 to $300 range. Some of them might push just over 300, but they're good guns I would definitely recommend to look into. Moving to the $300 guns, this is where you start getting into more of the high-end name brand guns. As I said, VFC, the Avalon Saber or the Avalon Caliber. The Saber is the one that I had that I started with. That's like $365. I got it for $340 on eBay. So that's a great gun if you're willing to put in the money. As I said, G&G has some higher end guns. My Sailing Arms International is like $370-ish. It's a GMP EMG like mix. You've got Krytac, CRB series, Krytac Trident Mark II, SPR. There's those which are gonna be in your higher 300s. What else? You've got the KWA, the Ronin series. You've got the T10, which that's a great gun, but that one's gonna be more expensive because it's a higher end gun. KWA's got great snappy guns, very reliable. The thing you do have to think about is as you get higher up, looking at to what type of material the gun is made out of. If it's made out of polymer, that's not bad. You probably want to avoid plastic if you can. Like, avoid anything from Walmart. You know, that's completely separate in terms of price point, but the material that the gun is made out of is going to completely and directly affect the durability, as you would expect. The guns that are in the 300 plus category are mostly going to be made all metal, at least for the upper receiver, and the rail is going to be all metal, and then the lower is going to probably be like a high nylon polymer. That's usually just to save out on weight. Some of these guns, obviously, that are full metal are going to be very, very heavy. So again, that's going to come down to personal preference, as well as personal preference is going to come down to the length of the gun. There's different types in terms of length. You've got the Carbine versions, which are your longer setup of guns, you know, typically 14 plus inch rails and up. You've got your SBRs, which is between 13 or about 14 to like 10 inch rails, and then you've got like 10 inch and under is your CQB kind of stubby guns. So that's going to also come down to your personal preference. Same thing with AKs. You've got, you know, AK-74s, which are a little bit smaller, say 74Us. And you've got your AKMs, your AK-74s, which are going to be longer. It's all down to personal preference, and that's the beauty of Airsoft, is you can completely make what you want, and whatever your personal preference is, you can pretty much find it for whatever. So those are a couple different options. I can link some of the different guns in the description. I would definitely go for any of the high-end guns if you can afford them, because you're going to definitely get what you pay for. I would also recommend the $200 guns, and if you're not willing to shell out the money, that's completely understandable, and you can go for the G&G guns, like the combat machines. Those are reliable as well, just probably not going to be as reliable long term, but they're very easy to repair. You know, you can throw in, if you break something internally, you can easily find a new part, order it, and then have a tech do it, or you can do it yourself if you're feeling brave. So it's all going to come down to personal preference and what you want to do, but those are some of the best guns that I can obviously recommend. I would stay away from snipers and LMGs because those are just really difficult guns to use as a beginner, considering it's a very different playstyle. LMGs are just really heavy and very specific to a game mode, as in you're filling a specific role rather than just running around. You can go to SMGs like an MP5 or a UMP. I know UMPs are very limited in terms of availability, like they're hard to find, and ones that are consistent, and then try and find mags that aren't completely gonna break the bank. MP5, if you want to go for an SMG, would be probably my biggest recommendation, because those are the most common that you're going to see on the field, and they're easy to find mags, or some sort of SMG style gun. You can find the King Arms PDW-9, I think is what it's called, is a M4 style gun, but with an MP5 style mag, very similar to what the MPX is like, if you guys know what the MPX is. It's almost identical to that. You can use MP5 style mags, but have an M4 style gun. So that's a good hybrid of if you want something smaller but still an M4 with different mags, you can do that. There's a variety of options. All you got to do is just go out there and look. Read the reviews on whatever you're looking at if you don't know what you're looking for, because the reviews tend to be very, very helpful. And then just ask people, you know, if you don't know how good a brand is or you're on the fence, ask somebody and then maybe it'll give you their opinion. But other than that, that's really it. And I'm glad that I could share my advice for you guys. And but other than that, that's gonna pretty much do it. And I'll see you guys in the next video.